Yo, what's going on, guys? Loki here, back at it again with another YouTube video. Today, for a very long time, I've been thinking about doing the Lightcone tier list. Myself and AJ recorded that video like 4 months ago, but I ended up scrapping it just because I really didn't like it, and it's a very tough video to do, just because do you make the Lightcone tier list based off of the universal application of the Lightcone, or do you make it off of how good it is on a certain character? Because there are certain Lightcones, if you attach it to the character it's meant for, it excels that character, shoots them to the moon, and makes them way better, gives them way more value than they would have had without it. So instead today, we will be doing E1 versus S1 for every 5-star limited character in the game. Which is better, E1 or S1? And starting from the top, first limited character, going from left to right, is Kafka. So for her Eidolon's called De Capo. When the talent triggers a follow-up attack, there is a 100% base chance to increase the dot received by the target by 30% for 2 turns. She has better Eidolons than that. It's, again, she was also a version, like a character in 1.0, so she's not a 2.0 character. She's not built as broken as a lot of like the other characters we've seen. There isn't a lot of ignore defense. I don't even believe there's even res pen in her other Eidolons. I don't think there is, right? We didn't start getting like res pen or anything like that until later. Yeah, so we just got some like damage boosts, stuff like that. But so I would say her Lightcone is 100% better, right? 24% damage boost, she gets a speed boost, stacking up to 3 times, 4.8% times 3. And then what this Lightcone allows you to do, you can basic attack, if you, assuming you don't have the skill points, to inflict the erode status, which considers the enemy shocked. So it's quality of life, right? It's a very solid Lightcone for that character. You can also run this Lightcone on other characters, other Nihility characters, but 100% S1 for Kafka. And now this one's a no-brainer. This is probably, I'm not gonna go over like what her Lightcone does. I'm just gonna, I'll let you guys do your own research, but I guess we could do that. I guess we could, that's fine. We can go over her Lightcone first, and I'm gonna tell you why E1's way better. So this is her Lightcone, Incessant Rain. I actually do have this Lightcone. I played a lot of Honkai Star Rail when it first dropped, so I do use this Lightcone on Gwenaifen. Ether Code's nice, but I mainly use it for the effect hit rate. It does increase your crit rate by 12%, so you can run like a bit of a DPS Silverwolf, but you're gonna need like E6 to really take advantage of her being like a DPS. I don't regret picking up that Lightcone. I don't really use it that often, but it does have its uses. The last time I used it was probably Golden Gears when I did a Nihility run, and I had my Gwenaifen doing like Fire Kiss dots for like 800k or something, right? That's like, it does have uses, but it's not necessarily like practical uses, right? But you can slap it on future Nihility characters, so it does have that going for it. We actually do have the E1. There was enough pulls to get the E1 back in 1.1, I believe she came out. Yeah, no, Gen U1 was 1.1. 1.2 maybe, or yeah, I believe it was 1.2. There was enough pulls to get E1 Silverwolf if you won your 50-50. So we ended up winning that, and this is one of the best E1s for a character in the game. It changes how the character plays. This is probably the character that sparked the discussion of, wait, we're having these Honkai Star Rail tournaments, Eidolons are not very fair. This is probably the character that sparked that discussion, because there would be a team that would have E1 Silverwolf and then a team without it, and you would just see the difference, right? After using her ultimate to attack enemies, Silverwolf regenerates 7 energy for every debuff the target enemy has. This effect can be triggered up to 5 times in each use of her ultimate. Basically, you use your ultimate, you get a chunk of her ultimate back based on how many debuffs the enemy has. It's a game changer for this character. It's a massive game changer, right? And then obviously this character has the biggest debuff in the game. But yeah, like we were saying earlier, her signature is essentially only meant for this is good quality of life, but her signature is only really meant for buffing her damage and turning her into a crit wolf, which is possible, but I can also just show you what that looks like in game. Silverwolf used to be the queen of all simulating universe content. I believe the blessing still exists. I think it might have been nerfed a little bit, but it was called Celestial Annihilation, and you would break the enemy and then go again. But I think toughness bars have just gotten so much thicker over time that Silverwolf is just getting power crept because of it. But so there's 3, right? And then we can do this first, actually, and then now we do this. Look at this. 7 debuffs, right? 7 debuffs. Look at her energy. Look at her energy. It's 0 right now. You can see it right there. I know my model's in the way, but I will hold this for you so you guys can see. Look at the chunk. Look at the chunk. Boom. We are almost back to another ult. We are almost back to another ult. E1 Silverwolf is no joke. That character is insane. The next character on the list is Seela. I actually do have E1 Seela. There was a lot of polls in 1.0, obviously. New game, tons of content. We ended up getting 1.0. We ended up getting E1, E1 S1 Seela. It's decent quality of life. You're gonna have this buff more often than not. 15%. It's really nice for when you're beginning the game. You're going to be critting a lot because you don't really have artifacts built like that, right? So this was pretty decent. Seela was a powerhouse. She was the character that everyone would always say, guess what? It's always her turn. It's never not her turn. That was her shtick back in the day. Now we move on to this, which I think is considerably better. Her Lightcone. You're getting 18% crit rate. This is kind of a no-brainer. 18% crit rate, right? For every 10 speed that exceeds 100, a 6% basic attack and skill increase, which is what she wants, and then crit damage by 12%, stacking up to 6 times. Right? So this says comma. Increases damage dealt by basic attack and skill by 6%, period. At the same time, crit damage 12%, and that can stack up to 6 times. So I used this on March 7th. I used it on Moe's. It's a very, very good Lightcone if you picked it up early game. Topaz suffers from 1.0 syndrome, or version 1 syndrome. Like if she would have come out, let's say she comes out in 2.6, she would probably have E1 in her kit, built into her kit as like a trace, right? You get another debuff called the Deader State. It increases the crit damage of follow-up attacks. So enemies that have the Numby symbol over their head, you get 25% more crit damage, stacking up to 2 times, 50% more crit damage. Ridiculous. Will make your Feixiao hit way harder. E1. Hunt. Worrisome, blissful. This makes Topaz a more complete character. E1 completes her, in my opinion, but this Lightcone makes her from being just like, I would say at E0, S0, she's definitely worse than Moe's, worse than E2 Moe's. But when you put this Lightcone in her, her value definitely goes up. This Lightcone can also be used on a number of other characters, right? It can be used as a stat stick. 18% crit rate. You can also run this in Feixiao if you do have it, although it's better on Topaz. 30% follow-up attack damage, and inflicts the tame state 12% crit damage, stacking up to 2 times, right? 24 plus 50, 74% crit damage total if you have E1. This Lightcone is very, 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 very good. I would say in this situation, you go for S1 first before E1, and then you try to go for E1. Again, another character suffering from 1.0 syndrome. All in the zone attack increases by 20%. That's one of the worst E1s I've ever seen. That is such a bad E1. This guy Abundance. I actually don't have this. Increases the wearer's attack 24%. Obviously, he's an attack scaling unit. He heals more the more attack he has. After the wearer uses an attack for every different enemy the target hits, regenerates 3 energy. Stacking up to 3 times. After the wearer uses their ultimate, all allies gain 12 speed for 1 turn. That's actually decent, but not a lot. I don't know many people that picked up this Lightcone. I know for a fact I didn't. Obviously, you can see that, but if I had to say, I mean, obviously the Lightcone's better. His E1's kind of dog shit. Jin Yuan, King Yuan. When Lightning Lord attacks, the damage multiplier on enemies adjacent to the target increases by an extra amount equal to 25% of the damage multiplier against the primary target. Just makes him slightly better. However, it doesn't compare to this man's Lightcone. Why did I search destruction? This man's erudition. So this Lightcone is a major stat stick. I swap this Lightcone between Himiko and Herta all the time. It increases the wearer's crit damage by 36%. Increases damage dealt by the wearer's skill and ultimate by 18%. After the skill or ultimate gains this buff, Somnus Corpus, upon triggering a follow-up attack, consumes that buff and increases damage dealt by follow-up attack by 48%. This is a massive stat stick. This is just way better than his E1, in my personal opinion. It's way better than his E1, and it also has a lot of application on other characters. Lord Blade. So yeah, a character that doesn't have the best scaling in the game. Nowadays, people kind of just use him as like a follow-up bot. They'll just drain his HP and just make him follow up and run him alongside their actual DPS. The Blade kind of used as like a sub DPS or like more of a support, a support DPS, I guess, nowadays. But this buffs his ultimate damage. It makes his ultimate hit harder. The Blade Wombo combo is a big chunk of his damage. If he was able to get that sooner, which I believe E6 does, right? Yeah, so it reduces the stacks. So it'd be like ultimate, attack, get your next stack, follow up, and that's like the Blade Wombo combo, right? That happens a lot with this character, and that's kind of where his true value lies, and just being able to consistently attack. You kind of have to build teams around him to make him work now, but if I had to say which one was better, I would 100% say his Lightcone's better. I run his Lightcone on Yoon Lee. 18% crit damage, 18% HP. Some characters would appreciate that. Yoon Lee definitely appreciates it because I kind of run her as a sustain. So sometimes I run her as a sustain. And then when you're attacked or your HP is consumed, you get a 24% damage increase. So in this particular situation, I would say S1 is definitely better for Blade. In this one, I feel like everyone's probably gonna agree with me with everything before this. This is probably where I'm gonna disagree with people. So this makes it so your summoning circle buffs everyone's crit damage by 30%. It's really good. It's actually a really good E1. But me personally, after playing so much Divergent Universe, I've grown to see the value in her signature Lightcone, and I kind of wish I had this. It gives her 24% more HP, This is how people get to 10,000 plus HP with Bruchuan. I'm not saying you can't get to 10,000 HP with certain substats, but it's a lot easier with this Lightcone. But if you run speed boots, you can, with this Lightcone, you can get 10,000 plus HP. Gives you energy regen. Energy regen is never to be overlooked. When the wearer's HP is reduced, all allies' damage dealt increases by 9%, lasting for 2 turns. At the start of every wave, restores HP to all allies by an amount equal to 80% of their respective lost HP. That is so good for Divergent Universe, because she's not the best like healer in her ult unless you're grabbing buffs that increase your healing. And even with that, if you are grabbing buffs that increase your healing, not only do you have her damage resistance, you're getting a free heal at the start of every cycle. This is such a good Lightcone. I've grown to see the value after getting pummeled in Divergent Universe 8. I really want this thing. This thing is actually nuts. In this situation, I would say, like, if we're talking MOC, obviously you probably want the crit damage because nothing's gonna kill you anyway. But if we're talking like harder content than MOC, like Divergent Universe, then 100% I would say S1 is better for her. This one's kind of close. This is Jingliu. When using her ultimate or enhanced skill, her crit damage increases by 24% for 1 turn. If only one enemy target is attacked, the target will additionally be dealt ice damage equal to 100% of Jingliu's attack, right? Now, we go over here and look at her Lightcone. Her Lightcone has something that I will always appreciate, and that is this right here. Increases the wearer's crit damage by 20%. When an ally, excluding the wearer, gets attacked or loses HP, she gains a stack of Eclipse. This Lightcone allows you to run her with Blade, right? It makes it more comfy to run her with Blade because she's getting stacks and she's getting stronger as well. 14% increase to her attack, stacking up to 3 times. Each time an ally loses HP, which she drains HP from the enemies. This is a character that's, the Lightcone's kind of tied to her. It makes her more of a complete character. When 3 stacks are reached, additionally enables that attack to ignore 12% of the enemy's defense. Defense, ignore, and res pen are some of the strongest stats in the game, so this is why S1 gets the edge here. Dan Hung Imbiber Lune. Alright, Tethered to Sky increases the stackable Righteous Heart count by 4 and gains 1 extra stack of Righteous Heart for each hit during an attack. This is decent. If we go and break that down, where is it at? Okay, after each hit dealt during an attack by a Dill, he gains a stack of Righteous Heart, increasing his damage by 9.3%. Stacks up to 6 times, right? This makes it stack up to 10 times. And he gains 1 extra stack for each hit during an attack. So he's able to reach his like max potential faster due to being able to obtain stacks faster. So the Lightcone increases his crit rate by 18%. When he uses his basic attack, he gains 1 stack of Dragon's Call, lasting for 2 turns. Each stack of Dragon's Call increases the wearer's attack and energy regeneration rate by 6%. And Dragon Call can be stacked up to 2 times. S1 is better here, in my opinion, because when you use his ult, you get a free skill. The energy regeneration is going to allow you to get his ult quicker, especially if you're running him with like a Team Yoon as well. You are going to have his ult up very often, and you're not going to have to waste skill points. If you have Sparkle, then maybe E1's better for you, but what other destruction Lightcone would you use? Like if you needed the crit rate on this, I mean obviously you can run the Herda shop Lightcone, but if you did need the crit rate to fill out his crit rate, then S1 would be the better option. But I'm just gonna say, in my personal opinion, because I do have Dill and I didn't pick up S1, I used to run Blade Lightcone on him, so for me it would be E1, but if I didn't have Blade Lightcone, it would be S1. And that's also because I have an E16 Yoon, right? So like I don't have to worry about him not having energy. Oh, this is a no-brainer. I'm not even gonna read her Lightcone. I'm not even gonna read it. E1 is better. I have grabbed Space Cheese in Simulated Universe, and I know what this does. It gives you an extra stack, right? And when she has her stacks, everyone gets 12% speed. So I'm telling you, I've played so much Simulated Universe / Divergent Universe that like this stuff is quality of life. You don't have to heal as often because you have 3 stacks. You know how it lights up at the bottom? Instead of it just being 2, it'll be 3, and you'll constantly remove those debuffs, constantly cleanse, while also getting a speed boost. We can go over her light cone, but I'm already telling you, E1 is 100% better for Huohuo. There's a ton of abundance free-to-play options as well. There's a ton, but we will read it. Energy regen, 12%. We already have a light cone that does that at 4-star. When an ally uses their ultimate, the wearer restores HP for the ally currently with the lowest HP by an amount equal to 10% of the healed ally's HP. Okay, so like typically when you're in Divine Provision and you use your ultimate, you get a heal anyway, but this heals someone else as well. That's what I'm understanding from that. You get an attack boost as well, but she gives you attack boost in her ult. Like there's only so much attack that you want, and at a certain point you're just gonna get diminishing returns, right? So like it's a cool light cone, very cool art, I love it, but E1's 100% better. Next we have Feixiao. Basically this just increases the damage inside of her ultimate. I believe it's like for each hit, right? So increases the ultimate damage dealt by Feixiao by an amount equal to 10% of the original damage, lasting up to 5 times, lasting until the end of the action. Yeah, so that's not the greatest. I think E2 is where she starts to kind of go crazy. Oh yeah, E2 is where she kind of starts to pop off a little bit. Her light cone's 100% better than her E1. Again, this 54% defense ignore plus the free 15% crit, out of this world. Like that is just leagues better, right? Yunli, I actually don't know what her E1 does. Increases damage dealt by into a slash and into a cold by 20%. Increases the number of additional damage instances by into it cold by 3. That's cool, because that's just gonna make her ult hit harder when you do proc it, and you do time it. So E1 is actually pretty decent. It's actually pretty close to S1, I would say. It's pretty close, but one reason I would take S1 over it: greatly increases the wearer's chance of getting attacked and increases crit damage 36%. After the wearer uses ultimate, you get a stack of Fire Dance. Each stack of Fire Dance increases the damage dealt by the wearer's follow-up attack by 36%. So yeah, this is one of those light cones that it's, oh wow, it's actually a really good light cone. You can run this on Blade too. I mean, obviously you can run it on Clara, but you can run it on Blade for sure. It's actually a really good light cone. This is S1 all day for me. S1 all day. Ron May, ooh, this is a spicy one. This is a spicy one. All right, let's read the E1. I believe it's defense ignore. When the ultimate zone is deployed, so when you're in petals, right? The damage dealt by all allies ignores 20% of the target's defense. E1 is actually so good for the Feixiao follow-up team. You get Topaz ignoring defense, you get Feixiao ignoring defense, and obviously you would use Robin here, which we'll go over Robin in a bit. But if you're playing like Divergent Universe, 100%, unless you have like E1 Robin. Ron May is more often than not, especially on like 7 and 8 of Divergent Universe, Ron May is a better choice over Robin just because of you being able to delay the enemy. And if you're getting a certain amount of energy from what do you call it, the erudition buff that gives you your ult back, I don't know why it's escaping my brain right now, brain in a vat, then you can infinitely keep these enemies delayed, right? They get their turn, they go, you pop petals again, you re-break. Ron May's value in Simulated Universe, and it makes sense because her blessing was the best blessing in Simulated Universe. It's the blessing that gave you all of the buffs, right? You kind of just win if you get that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there's an old video on my channel. It's the biggest video on my channel that explains how to get double Ron May in Simulated Universe. I haven't seen the Ron May buff in Divergent Universe. I don't know if it exists, but if it does, I am extremely unlucky. But yes, E1 is very, very, very good. Ignore defense goes crazy. It goes crazy. It gets you closer to true damage, right? However, this Lightcone is one of the best Lightcones in the entirety of the game. It's top 3 in my personal opinion. It's giving her 60% break damage, so you don't have to build as much break, makes it easier. Obviously she does have her 4-star options, but let me continue. When the wearer uses their ultimate, increases all allies damage by 24%. This is nice, you take that, lasting for 3 turns. And then should your break effect exceed 150, which it will, 1 skill point will be recovered. Invaluable. If it ended here, I would still take S1 over E1, but it keeps going. At the start of every wave, all allies regenerate 10 energy immediately. That is disgusting. That has saved my life so many times in this game. This Lightcone is so good. It's one of the best Lightcones in the entirety of the game. If you're asking Ron May, E1 or S1, E1. This one is very interesting as well. Dr. Veritas Ratio. The maximum stackable count for the trace summonation increases by 4. Let's talk about summonation, right? Summonation is how he gets his free crit rate, because you probably see Dr. Ratios with like 60% crit rate. You can actually get more than that, right? This is summonation. When Dr. Ratio uses his skill, for every debuff on the target, his crit rate increases by 2.5% and crit damage by 5%, stacking up to 6 times, right? He gets free crit rate, crit damage. Summonation increases by 4, giving him more crit rate, crit damage. E1's really, really good. But if we talk about S1, remember how we talked about how defense ignores so good? I wish I actually had Baptism with Pure Thought. Increases his crit damage by 20%. For every debuff on the enemy target, the wearer's crit damage dealt against this target additionally increases by 8%, stacking up to 3 times. When the wearer uses ultimate to attack the target, the wearer receives Disputation effect, which increases damage dealt by 36% and enables their follow-up attacks to ignore 24% of the target's defense. So, there was a run by Yellow a long time ago versus Aventurine. If you remember this MOC, this is the MOC where Acheron came out. He ended up basically copying this run from a CN player, and he replicated it perfectly. Just to put this in perspective, Aventurine has resistance, or imaginary resistance. He has imaginary resistance. This is E0 S1 Aventurine. His ratio should be doing no damage versus this Aventurine. But because of that defense ignore, 90k, 102k, 273. Granted, there's probably some MOC buff here helping him out. I don't remember this one specifically. But look at all these debuffs. Silver Wolf here too, and then King Yun, Thrawn Mei. Look at that damage. This guy has imaginary resistance. It doesn't look like it. Boom. 255. Like, the power of that Lightcone is insane. He goes over the builds. He runs like a rainbow set. He's running a rainbow set. Wasn't the greatest thing ever. Where is it at? There it is. The rainbow set, the 78 over 200. It was like 78 over 200. $78 over 200 with the baptism and pure thought. That defense ignore is a major, I mean, 4.2k attack, dude. Is a major reason that he was able to do so much damage. Defense ignore, it goes crazy. It goes absolutely crazy. Oh, and I bring that up because that was Adventurine's first time in the MOC, and that was a 0 cycle with an imaginary resistant character versus Adventurine. So. And then we have the Sparkle E1. The Cypher effect granted by the ultimate lasts for 1 extra turn. All allies with Cypher have their attack increased by 40%. Cypher is there a talent? Which one's Cypher? Oh, it's our old, okay. So recovers 4 skill points. For allies with Cypher, each stack of the damage boost effects by her talent additionally increases by 9.5%, lasting for 2 turns. You get a bit of a damage boost from her ult, and it gives you an extra turn, and then you get a 40% attack boost. Not the greatest E1. Not the greatest E1. Now if we're talking about her Lightcone, 32% crit damage, meaning obviously the higher her crit damage, the more she's gonna give to your teammates. At the start of the battle, she gains the mask effect. While the wearer has mask, the wearer's allies have their crit rate increased by 10% and their crit damage increased by 28%. For every 1 skill point the wearer recovers, they gain 1 stack of Radiant Flame, and when the wearer has 4 stacks of Radiant Flame, all the stacks are removed and they gain 4 stacks of mask, and it just loops over and over and over, right? Giving free stats to your entire team is disgusting because it allows you to try out different builds and maybe not build so much crit rate and build more crit damage because your character's already giving it to you. So for me, I don't own this Lightcone, but that's an S1 for me if I had to choose. Now when it comes to Acheron, her E1 just gives her 18% crit rate to debuffed enemies, obviously. And then with Lightcone, obviously Goodnight Sleep Well at S5 is a good option. One reason I do like along the Passing Shore better is people will tell you it's only like a 24% damage increase from Goodnight Sleep Well. It's not worth it. 36% crit damage, and then you get another debuff. So that allows you to get 2 Crimson Knot stacks on the enemy rather than just 1 when you attack with Acheron, even if you basic attack. So you're able to ult even faster, especially if you have Jiao Qiao. Jiao Qiao's gonna take care of the rest of that for you. And then it increases your ultimate damage because you're inflicting Mirage Fizzle. This used to be called something else. They changed it from the beta. It used to be called something else. It was called the coolest name ever, and they changed it. I don't know why. It's kind of like how March 7th, which the March 7th thing makes sense, but she would give a buff to your teammates, and it was called Master. They changed it to Shifu, but I don't know. It's just weird to me because in the story she clearly calls Yun Li and Yanqing Master, but I guess I see the implications. So I mean, that one is S1 for Acheron, especially because Acheron's probably gonna have a rerun here soon. Wink, wink. Robin. This is another interesting one. The Concerto State, all allies res pin 24% res pin on her E1, right? Now, if we look at Ron May already has that built into her kit in her ult. She already has that, and it's even higher than Robin's. But again, if you if you have both, you can have essentially 25% res pen on both sides of MOC, which is really nice. E1 Robin's really good. It's one of the best E1s in the entirety of the game. It's so good. But we have to talk about her Lightcone. Each time an ally attacks, you gain a stack of cancellation. Each stack of cancellation increases the wearer's energy regen 3%, stacking up to 5 times. When the wearer uses their ultimate, removes cancellation, gains cadenza. Cadenza increases the wearer's attack 48% and increases all allies' damage dealt by 24%, lasting for 2 turns. This is super tough, I'm not gonna lie. If you're running for the follow-up attack team comp, the premium follow-up attack team comp with Feixiao, Aventurine, Topaz, Robin, this Lightcone is really good. The reason it's really good is because by the time she finishes singing, her ult, more often than not, if you have this Lightcone, it'll be charged again. Meaning if you're in MOC and you're going for like a 0 cycle, or you just don't want the enemy to go, this Lightcone will accomplish that for you. Now, her E1 has more uses in game modes outside of MOC. Let's say, again, Divergent Universe, you want to do more damage to the enemies, then E1's better. This is actually really tough. It's like a coin flip. It's literally a coin flip for me, but this energy is so good. I beta tested Robin, so I know how good this is. And that was with Ratio. That was before Feixiao came out, right? I would be in MOC. She would finish singing and she would have her ult back again. Immediate use again. So I'm gonna say S1 over E1, but E1's not bad. E1's not bad. It's just personally, I've seen the implications of this. I know how good this is firsthand. So for me personally, I would say S1 over E1, but E1's not bad at all. Don't take this as me like shitting on E1. E1's very good. Res Pen is insane. I'm not gonna lie, Firefly is one of the characters that's pretty tough, because E1 here ignores 15% of the target's defense, which that's stacking with the set that you're gonna run in her, the 4-piece break set that ignores defense depending on how much break effect you have. And then I think if you have 250 break effects, you ignore your super break damage, ignores defense. And then her E1 allows you also, because it says period right here, which means something else starts. The enhanced skill does not consume skill points. That is so good. E1 is actually so good. Now, if we look at her Lightcone, just to be fair, increases break effect 60%. And then when you deal break damage, and you get a debuff called Routed, right? Targets afflicted with Routed receive 24% increased break damage from the wearer, so specifically her, and their speed's lowered 20%. Something like this can be really good, and it can be good in MOC, Simulated Universe, anything like that, or Divergent Universe. No one's struggling with Simulated Universe, but being able to make the enemy not go so you can go more often is very good. It's just so good, because this character hits like 200 speed, right? Like easily. So she's going a ton, and then you're delayed. It's very good. And the only reason I would say S1 over E1 here, it's very close. Like E1's better than S1, but because she doesn't have many other options, I would say if you are going to pick up Firefly and you are deciding between E1 and S1, to probably pick up the Lightcone. She just doesn't have many other options, like many break destruction options, you know? So that's one thing that I would go with. My boy Boot Hill. I was experimenting with this guy so much today because we ended up picking up E2 Bronya from the standard banner just naturally, which is a 30% speed increase to whoever you push to the front, whoever you use her skill on. So I've been experimenting with 200 speed boot hill by manipulating action value, all that type of stuff. His ult also delays enemies. I'm probably gonna make a video on it in the future, especially if we have an MOC geared more towards like break or anything. But this guy has been so fun to play, and I don't have signature Lightcone, but let's read E1 first. When the battle starts, obtains 1 stack of pocket trick shot. When boot heal deals damage, ignores 16% of the target's defense. It says ignore defense. Look, he's gonna pick ignore defense. He's gonna pick E1. He's hot. Guess what? Increases the wearer's break effect by 60%. The break damage dealt by the wearer ignores 20% of the target's defense. When the wearer's break effect in battle is at 150 or greater, increases their speed by 12%. I've run both of these, and the damage is insane. I was in the beta test with Boot Hill, so I was able to go into Simulated Universe and run and grab Space Cheese to get E1, and then obviously the account came with the signature Lightcone on it. So 20% ignore defense is giving you extra speed, because right now my my Boot Hill's issue is I'm at 199 speed. It's no bullshit. It's actually so annoying. I'm at 199. I'm one speed away from being able to go 3 times in the cycle, even with the Bronya pushing me forward with E2. So yeah, I'm at 199. If I had the Lightcone, it would help out a lot. What do I actually use on him? Oh, he's Hunt. Oh yeah, I think I just run like Zila Lightcone on him. Or cruising in Stellar Sea. He has a couple options. I have this Lightcone too, the Yanqing Lightcone. I used to run that on him. Again, he's a break character that crit actually does matter. This character can actually crit. So yeah, we are just running this now for energy, but yeah, this guy can actually crit. So it actually, something like this actually benefits him. And then, like I said, this is a bit of a tangent, but we did pick up the E2 Bronya from the standard banner. So I've been having fun with that. Winset Bronya. And then my boot heal's faster than her, so she pushes him forward, gives him more speed. If I change artifacts around, he'll end up being over 200 speed, and he can go 3 times in a cycle. It's actually disgusting. It's disgusting tech. I'll break it down for you guys one day. So I believe this is the last character. No, we have a few more. So this one, Lightcone. I say Lightcone for this one. I mean, his Lightcone just ignores more defense. It's just better value than his E1. I kind of wish his E1 would have done something else, but obviously if you have both together, his breaks are going to be monumental. They're going to be absolutely insane. So moving down, Feixiao. When this character first came out, a lot of people compared him to Gwenaifen, and they would say Gwenaifen with Feixiao Lightcone is actually on par, if not just slightly worse than Feixiao. If you guys didn't see, I mean, maybe we'll go over it in a future video. He actually moved up on the Pridwin tier list to 0.5 tier. So he's actually getting a lot of eyes on him. So allies deal 40% increased damage to enemies afflicted with Ashen Roast. Whenever inflicting Ashen Roast on an enemy, via triggering the talent effect, increases the number of stacks applied this time by 1. Pretty decent. Not a bad E1 at all. I'm telling you right now though, I would probably go for his signature Lightcone. It's giving you massive effect hit rate. This is one of the characters that wants over 100% effect hit rate. He inflicts Unarmored, which is another debuff, right? It's a 60% base chance, but again, he's giving you 60% effect hit rate. If you have over 100%, then you're going to inflict this more often than not. You receive 10%. The enemies receive 10% increased damage lasting for 2 turns. And if you are under a dot state inflicted by the wearer, there's a 60% base chance to upgrade Unarmored to the cornered state, which additionally increases the damage the target receives by 14%. So you're stacking invulnerability with 2 other debuffs. It's kind of like how Gwenaifen has Fire Kiss, which makes the enemies take the increased fire damage. He's inflicting his own dot, and it's becoming like a super dot, right? Yeah, I don't know, was this Lightcone buffed? I don't remember this doing this in the beta. I think this was buffed. I want to say this was buffed because I remember Unarmored, I think, but I don't remember it upgrading to cornered. That's pretty cool. So you have vulnerability, right? And then you're inflicting another debuff on top of that. Acheron's gonna like that. Acheron's gonna like that. Acheron's gonna want you to have that Lightcone. So I definitely see why people were saying if Gwenaifen just had his Lightcone, her performance is very similar to his. I get it. I totally get it. It doesn't negate the fact that if you do have Jiao Shou, he's gonna make Acheron better. Next, we get to talk about Black Swan. I want to show you guys something specifically. So while she's on the field, so first of all, if you go to her traces, right? Arcana, her skill inflicts an enemy with Arcana, right? And they are considered to be in the wind shear state, but they're also considered to have wind shear, bleed, burn, and shock at the same time, right? So now if you look at E1, enemies that have wind shear, bleed, burn, or shock have their wind, physical, fire, and or lightning res reduced by 25%. It's a monstrous E1. That is a monstrous E1. Nihility. And then Lightcone, 40% effect hit rate. When the wearer does damage to an enemy inflicted with wind shear, bleed, burn, shock, which Arcana does, you gain a stack of profit. You can only gain 1 stack of profit, and each stack of profit increases the wearer's attack by 5% and enables the dot to ignore 7.2% of the target's defense. So the dot set already ignores defense, and then if you have the signature Lightcone, you're ignoring defense as well. One thing I did want to show, this was I believe it might have been a 1 cycle. This was actually, I don't think I tried to 0 cycle this back in the day, but I remember watching this tournament and I was like, how is her Black Swan doing so much damage? And it's essentially, it's because of E1 S1 Black Swan. So look at all these debuffs, bro. First of all, that is I think that's E1 Silverwolf. It's E1 Silverwolf, so she's constantly debuffing Sam, right? All these debuffs. And then every debuff is on the enemy target. Bleed, burn, the shock from Acheron. And then because this is E1 S1 Black Swan, all these dots are ignoring defense. And then Acheron's getting more damage because because of the lightning res down. So Sam actually gets smoked here. I think this was like a 1 cycle, if I remember correctly. I watch all these tournaments, but I think it was a 1 cycle if I remember correctly. And it was just, I feel bad for the other team because there's no Eidolon toggle in this game in these tournaments, but no hate against Moon or anything, but like this was like insane. Like I watched this and I was like, holy crap, like E1 S1 Black Swan against Sam is just nuts, absolutely nuts. Yeah, we do end up seeing that Sig Lightcone with E1. Wild. Yeah, and there's the E1. But yeah, that's how good E1 Black Swan is. That was my whole point in showing that. Like, absolutely insane. I'm gonna say E1 for Black Swan being better than S1. Yeah, because after you use ult, it considers the enemy to have all debuffs. So that's where E1 would kick in. So you don't necessarily need Lightcone to take advantage of E1. And then E1's also beneficial for your other teammates if you're running her with Acheron. And then she also gives you defense down. Like Black Swan's actually really good. This is a slept on character, I'm not gonna lie. And the final E1 S1 we're gonna talk about today is Jade. Her E1 makes her follow-up attacks do more damage, and then it gives her less cost basically because it gives her a stack, right? After the Dead or State character attacks, the number of enemy targets hit is either 2 or 1. She additionally gains 1 or 2 points respectively. So based on how many enemies you hit, you gain an extra stack or an extra 2 stacks. Pretty decent quality of life for Jade. Now let's take a look at her Lightcone. Increases her crit rate. For every 20% crit damage that exceeds 120, the damage of her follow-up attack increases by 12%, stacking up to 4 times. Okay, if it ended there, I would say E1's better, but it looks like it's continuing. This effect can stack up to 4 times. Okay, if it ended there, I would still say E1's better. Okay, when the battle starts or after the wearer uses their basic attack, and remember, her basic attack hits every enemy in the field. If you don't have Jade, you might not know that. Enables the damage dealt by ultimate or follow-up attack to ignore 20% of the target's defense, lasting for 2 turns. S1's better. S1's better. Not just because of the ignore defense, because it has that Lightcone has like 4 different effects. Yeah, so in my personal opinion, I would say S1 is better. E1's not bad though. E1's definitely not bad. She's gonna follow up attack more often, but that follow up attack's not gonna do as much damage as if you didn't have the Lightcone. If you have the Lightcone and E1, you're getting off more follow up attacks with Jade, reaching her ult quicker as well, which is gonna allow you to get off more follow up attacks. Does her basic attack count as a follow up? It doesn't. Imagine if it did. It'd be crazy if it did, because it hits every enemy on the field. I don't know if it does. It doesn't, right? There's no way it does, right? Okay, so it looks like it doesn't. So no, it's only her follow-up attack. If her basic did, that'd be crazy. But yeah, I would say it would be S1 for Jade. Let me know what you guys thought about E1 versus S1. This is a bit of a long one. This is a long, we had a lot of characters to go through. I actually didn't think this would be this long, but we yapped a lot. Yeah, leave a like on the video, comment, sub to the channel. On our way to 1,000 subscribers, I would appreciate a sub. It's free, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.